After the events of the eclipse, the berserk landscape changed forever. Guts was no longer living solely in the physical plane. He lived in both the physical and the astral worlds, the interstice. This meant that Guts would constantly be hounded by spirits, specters, and things that go bump in the night. He essentially had a tracking device placed on his body so as to never be removed until the day of his death. A curse, if you will. But maybe, just maybe, this curse contains some hidden blessing. An unusual benefit that, if harnessed correctly, could be used against the very members of the God Hand that bestowed the curse in the first place. Now this curse/blessing I speak of is none other than the Beast of Darkness. Before we explain why the Beast of Darkness might be the key to defeating the God Hand, let's explore what he is and where he comes from. Now we first came across the Beast of Darkness in chapter 118, after the fiery events at the Misty Valley. While escaping the Holy Iron Chain Knights, Guts lumbers through a forest as evil spirits reprimand him for killing children. And if you remember, he did all this to settle his own grudge with Rosine. The spirits then state that he stinks of darkness. You stink of darkness. The stink of darkness very close to us. It lives inside you. The beast, black, the beast of darkness. It thirsts. The more blood in which it bathes, the more it does thirst. The beast has an insatiable appetite. The blood must flow, so keep killing, it will still thirst. It continues on by saying, then the beast will consume you. It will take your place. You will come to feel nothing but hatred. You will become a monster in the form of man. Now, this last part doesn't pertain to the video, but if you guys remember, I speculated some rather important information in this video right here. And I think this last statement basically verifies all my hypotheses, so go check that out if you haven't already. Now, there are many questions after this exchange with the spirits and Guts, but by breaking down each component, we can draw reasonable conclusions. 1. The dark spirits that are lurking in the forest are what we might call as dark elves. Now, elves like Puck and Ivalera are full of happiness and levity. This permits buoyancy and lightness, hence the reason they can fly through the sky. Dark elves, on the other hand, are nothing more than doom and gloom. Hence they are dense creatures that darken their surroundings. Now, dark elves consist of elementals, the Barites, that exist outside the fire, water, wind, and earth that make up the world. They are extremely minute beings that add weight to objects, and are so small that you can't even scry them. When gathered together, they make objects heavy, darken the sky, and produce things like depression and obsession of the mind. Now, when we go back to Berserk 118, that's exactly what's happening to Guts here. An unusually high amount of Barites are collecting together to torment Guts. But this is not happening by happenstance. This is all being instigated by Guts' own rage, his own darkness. In the Berserk universe, we have to make the assumption that each human that exists contains a certain amount of Barites within them. And we know this because all humans are susceptible to rage, jealousy, and lust. Yet for a normal human being, these Barites aren't enough to create a monster. It is only when a Balid is activated and someone makes a sacrifice that they are able to receive Barites from others and create a new substrate for themselves. A new substrate that appears as a monster. Now, we know this to be true because when Griffith visited the idea of evil, he said, "Take with you the power of feelings this inner world is filled with, and change the physical field that is your body into a shape suitable for your task." So we can simply interchange power of feelings with power of Barites based on the information given to us in chapter 346 from Gedfring. So with this knowledge, each time a Balid holder makes a sacrifice, they are receiving their sacrifice as Barites. The more sacrifices, the more Barites, making the apostle that much stronger. This is why Griffith had to sacrifice an entire army of comrades to attain his God Hand form. And we would presume that Void, Slan, Ubik, and Conrad did similar things to attain their current forms. Now that we have a reasonable explanation for how the apostles gain their current forms, we can backtrack this conversation back to Guts. After the eclipse, Guts had a period of 2 years in which his rage and frustration built up to insane levels. Levels that no other human was capable of. Meaning that he built up an enormous amount of Barites within himself. But now that he's branded and exists within the interstice, he not only can interact with the monsters from the astral plane, but he can communicate with his own Barites. The Barites that are collectively known as the Beast of Darkness. This is crucial because even though it poses a significant threat to his life, If harnessed appropriately, it could be weaponized and used against the God Hand. Well, we've already seen this weaponized, and that's thanks to Hanar and the Berserker armor, which, as I discussed in a previous video, somehow uses magic to pull out the Barites from the astral plane and constrict them within the armor itself, the armor that's in the physical plane. It's basically mimicking the process an apostle uses to change the physical field around their body so as to gain immeasurable strength, speed, and endurance. But what's remarkable about Guts is that he's rivaling other high-level apostles in terms of strength and speed, with only the Barites contained within himself. If he were to accept the Beast of Darkness's terms and conditions and make a sacrifice for himself, his power could be unimaginable, yet it would come at a cost of sacrificing his humanity. So you see, the apostles only exist within the physical plane because of the interstice, because the worlds are overlapping. There's no way they could exist within the physical plane if there was no overlapping element. So for example, if Guts were to accept the terms of the deal and he made a sacrifice with a Bailit, he would no longer be within the physical plane if there were no overlapping worlds. The one thing that he still has over Griffith is his humanity. Griffith is an empty shell at this point. Griffith does have a soul in a sense, but it's not his soul. It's the soul of the Moonlight Boy. But that's another conversation for another day. We thusly have a conundrum. Although the Berserker armor is a useful fetish in fighting the apostles, it is severely limited in accomplishing Guts' ultimate goal. It may also be ineffective against the God Hand. Griffith and the other members of the God Hand have shown some level of Barite manipulation. When Femto was first reincarnated, he displayed the power to manipulate Barites into a small, infinitesimal ball. Void was shown to distort space around him to redirect Skull Knight's sword back at him. And Femto was even able to manipulate Skull Knight's sword to elicit the beginnings of the Great Astral Roar. And there might even be a fourth example. When Guts and Griffith were battling on Elfhelm, Guts cryptically didn't activate his Berserker armor during that fight. You know, his ultimate goal in life is to destroy Griffith, is to get back at him for what he did to Casca. And for some reason or another, he decides not to use his most powerful set of armor, the armor that allows him to fight other apostles, because we don't know? I'm not buying it for a second. I think it's because Griffith was suppressing the release of Guts' Barites into the armor. In essence, Griffith was rendering the armor useless. So given all this information, and given that we know that the Beast of Darkness is made of Barites, how could he be the key to everything? How can he offer Guts the source of power he sorely needs to defeat Griffith and rescue Casca? And like all matters in Guts' life, the solution lies in his sword. Despite Guts' inability to touch Griffith in their most recent battle, he was able to clip off a single strand of hair. This means that Guts' sword has built up some resistance to the Barites. Perhaps some of the Barites have even become infused within the sword itself. But then again, you might be asking, Griffith can't be affected by the Barites, so why would this matter? What's more, he can control Barites. So if enough Barites get infused into the sword, he could just manipulate the sword. Not quite. There's an important detail that we have to keep in mind. That sword is of the physical plane. The Barites are part of the astral plane. It's basically a fusion of physical and astral, something that I don't think has ever been done within the Berserk universe. So if there was some way in which we could get a higher concentration of Barites infused within the physical sword, it just might have a chance of defeating the God Hand. And this is where the Beast of Darkness comes back in play. If Guts can find some way to make a deal with the Beast of Darkness, to channel the Barites of the Beast of Darkness into the Dragon Slayer, he might just have the perfect weapon in his hands. But again, this comes at a risk, because just like what happened with Skull Knight, if Guts were to channel all his Barites into his sword, he would lose a part of himself. And if he would lose grip of that sword, he literally could be split in two, with his ego going one way and the Beast of Darkness going another. But I'm telling you guys, if Guts finds a way to channel that Beast of Darkness into the sword, watch out, God Hand, because your days might be numbered. And it might just be the perfect weapon for Guts to finally achieve the dream he so sorely wants.